hello there. Hello, Dave Cyrus.
Eh,
Emmy nominated. I don't mean to embarrass you, but you were just nominated for an Emmy for your writing on Saturday Night Live.
yes, a show that I am.
Now, hang on. Hang on. Before you, I'm going to do something passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he writes Saturday Night Live. This is what I have passive aggressive relatives who at parties, when they introduce me, he writes Saturday Night. They try to make you bigger than you actually are so that you're forced to say, actually, it's a team. And they know it's a team, so they want to build you up to cut you off at the knees. Have you noticed that? Do you have relatives like that?
No. You are the only person who does that to me.
I'm not doing it to you. I'm just telling you. Anyway, congratulations. Dave Cyrus nominated for a well-earned Emmy for Saturday Night Live. Congratulations.
As a guest writer, yeah, if that counts. Can you hear me?
Emmy is an Emmy.
I was a guest writer on I think 5 episodes because me and Mike Lawrence were guest writing this year. So we're not staff writers. We don't have to deal with any of the work that everyone who's a staff writer there has to. Yet we're nominated for the same Emmy. So
fantastic. There's
something great about just really skating past all the work that other people are doing and then getting to just walk in front of that parade.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
I think it's only because when you nominate a show for an Emmy, you only nominate one episode. That's why like shows like The Wire never won, because they're being judged by single episodes as opposed to the arc of the season. And it just got lucky that an episode I was a guest writer for was the one nominated. So it's even more unfair.
Oh, but you know what's really unfair? I have a very limited...
that Let's Be Real is not in the same category, despite there being lots of room in that friggin' category.
Yes.
That we had a puppet show that the American public is literally unaware existed. As good as it was. It's amazing that show isn't nominated.
Yeah, and I said to the boss, we're not going to get picked up because I had a good time. This was too much fun. Hey, my limited exposure to sitcom writing, this is the nightmare of sitcoms. You have 10 people sitting around a table. It's usually a first draft that is completely deconstructed and built back up by the table, and the person who writes the first draft can't recognize it. Everything is taken out. And the economics are there are many reasons why, but they assign, if you have a contract, they assign you a certain number of scripts with your name on it. Chances are you may have, this isn't always the case, you may have no words.
No, that's possible, but it's also possible. I mean, yes, you're right, but there are cases where that happens in a literal sense, but the original script is still very much the source material. It's sometimes everything gets reworded, but you're still the thrust of something. So that's, to be fair, that's a plot. You still wrote the plot of something. You still wrote the theme of something, and the characters, that's something else. But here's the problem.
Hang on. Let me just hang on. But to be fair, the showrunner, there are many showrunners who write the whole thing. They do the beats, and they have to put somebody's name other than themselves on the script. And sometimes that person gets nominated for an Emmy.
That's very true. Yes, that is 100% true.
Gets to go up on stage and accept the award, and the showrunner punishes that person.
I mean, it happens in movies a lot too. It probably happened. I think it might even happen more in movies where you wrote a version of a script. Your name is permanently part of that script, but then it gets completely rewritten and is unrecognizable. TV, the writers usually have a little bit more power than in the movies. Movies, They can just take everything. And you just have this movie that you have no connection to, that if it's bad, it's your fault. And if it's good, you're a genius. And that does suck. But in TV, It does. Yeah, you're right. That does happen also in TV, because most of the time you see a person who wrote an episode of TV, that name is almost random. Oftentimes it was written by a committee. It was written by everyone in the room together. It was assembled because of the assumption that 10 people are going to do a better job than one person, but only if the person in charge, if the showrunner doesn't suck. If the showrunner isn't good, he's going to pick the worst jokes, or he's going to write it all himself.
But there's another reason you hire 10 or 20. I've been on staffs where they had 20 writers. You dilute the ownership. You dilute the creative ownership. You don't want anybody to take creative ownership. So if you have 20 on staff, you can just dilute everybody's contribution so nobody can say, you owe me. This show would be nothing without me.
I mean,
that's the way it works.
I can't prove that no one's ever done it with that motivation, but that's certainly
That's
never
the motivation.
what I saw it as.
The motivation is, I'm telling you, Dave.
I think it's I think it's more about not having confidence in writers to think I need more of them. I desperately need more of these people.
I
think it's all about, it's a terror at the idea that we're not going to have enough. And that you overload with writers.
You fool.
See, you're looking at everyone as having the same petty insecurities that you do, because a lot of people are just terrified of the product being good or bad. They don't even care about credit. I mean, I've worked on a few shows, and I mean, I can't say I've experienced that personally, where like you get completely removed from a script. But I mean, we both worked on SNL. We know it's a gigantic, it's a gigantic show. It's got tons of people.
The reason there are tons of people in a corporation, look at Trump. Mm-hmm. It's a way of saying nobody's in charge except me. It's controlled chaos. If you have a lot of people, it's chaos, and it keeps the guy on top.
I mean, I suppose if we're pontificating about what's deep down inside people's decisions, but are they really making decisions based on that, or are they making decisions
what my
based
son
on
said to me? My son studied Marxism. And he said to me, Daddy, had you been a Marxist when you started as a comedy writer, you would have been much more successful because you would have understood the abuse.
Well, that's your fault for letting the abuse get to you.
I'm not saying it. I'm.
It shouldn't have. It should have been. It should have been minor noise in the background of joke writing. Abuse sucks, but abuse, let's face it, a lot of people still get their jobs done. Doesn't mean the abuse is good, but it also doesn't mean that it also doesn't mean you would have done a better job. I'll put it that way. It doesn't mean that you weren't.
Letitia James report about Andrew Cuomo's workplace. He thrives. He in many ways, he's just like Trump. He thrives on chaos, uncertainty, and unhappy.
Well, if Cuomo is one of those people, he's one of those people who thinks people work harder for me when they're miserable, and people work harder when they're on their toes, he would put it by. But I don't know if Andrew Cuomo created the environment in his office because he thought it was a Machiavellian way of controlling people and making them work harder, when I think it could have just as easily been a pure straight shot of, I'm just the most handsome, brilliant man in the world, and everyone wants a piece of me. I don't even know if he was thinking that hard. I think that Cuomo might actually think he was just a great boss, and when he blew up at people, it was because great men don't have time to be polite, and when he harassed women, it was because there isn't a woman in this office who isn't going to pray at night that Andrew Cuomo is going to slip up behind her and start running his finger down her ear. I think this guy really thought he's this amazing genius and everything he did was fine. I think he still thinks everything he did was fine. I think the women that he groped, he still thinks she loved it. I think he is that delusional.
You are one of the smartest people I know, and I love you. But you couldn't be more wrong if your name were Wrongly Wrongman, Steen.
Oh no, look, I didn't look. This isn't something I'm saying I know for a fact. I'm saying I could absolutely see this guy just being a pure engine of ego. And I think people naturally act this way sometimes. People just
Yes, they do.
When no one is as worthy a person as you in your eyes, this is how you treat people. When you think you're better than everyone and you think you just see Andrew Cuomo to me is a person who thinks he deserved to be governor on a preternatural level. Like he just said, I am a great man and I am settling for governor right now. And a guy like that thinks he can take whatever he wants. That's what I think it was. But I mean, the idea of chaos, I mean, we know that Trump did that. We know that Trump wanted.
You have, by the way, I'm being a little argumentative with you tonight because I feel, I don't know. The show is abbreviated and I don't know.
David, you don't have to explain why when you're in a bad mood, you pick fights with me.
I'm not picking a fight with you. I'm not. And you've explained some things to me that I quote all the time.
Good.
But let me tell you who Andrew Cuomo is. Andrew Cuomo is a frightened little boy who knows that he stepped into his father's job and he's terrified that everybody is thinking the only reason I'm here is because I'm Mario Cuomo's son. For those of you who don't remember, his father was for some reason, a beloved mayor of New York, and he cashed in. Andrew and Chris Cuomo have cashed in on the Mario Cuomo legacy. And,
of course.
And in the back of their minds, they know that everybody is looking at them thinking, there but for your father, you would not be here. And it makes them angry. And they took a shortcut. They took the shortcut of letting their father and his connections help them, and they take other shortcuts in life.
I think
and they go immediately. They have tempers. That's a shortcut. These sons of powerful, successful men, 98% of them should be sent to a re-education camp and forced to change their last name.
Well, that is a good point that, human history is filled with people in positions they didn't deserve because of who their dads were.
Alexander the Great, I think, is an exception.
Yeah, you're right. Philip he set the table for Alexander and he was able to accomplish more. It happens.
Michael Douglas.
Sure. But I think that what's really happening is I can't say if I know that the Cuomo brothers are insecure. Because when I watch Andrew Cuomo speak, I really do get the impression this guy thinks he is God on earth. The way he talks to women, the way the folksy way he would do those press conferences, I just always got the impression this guy could be on TV every second of the day. He's like Beyonce. He thinks he should be recorded every second and that everything he says should be in a book somewhere is the impression I got. But you know what? That goes hand in hand with insecurity, doesn't it? I don't know. I didn't grow up, I grew up in a perfectly comfortable environment. I had what I needed, but I certainly wasn't.
It wasn't that comfortable.
I was in a normal suburban.
You had a difficult childhood.
Yeah, but not because of my family. My difficulty was from outside the house. No, it wasn't. It wasn't my family. It was from outside the house. But because I certainly had no leg up. I didn't have any leg ups in terms of
you were a bad kid.
Career.
You were bad.
I was a really good kid.
You were evil.
I was very well behaved. I know the bit we're doing. But I had a lot of advantages simply for the fact that I didn't have to worry about anything. Didn't have to worry about food or going to school. I was able to afford college. But I didn't have that kind of.
But you didn't go and have a father. You didn't.
No.
You didn't say I want to do what my father does and sleep with Matilda, my mother. Matilda, she's the source of all the angst. That Matilda.
Oh, is that Mario Cuomo's wife is Matilda?
No, the mother. Yeah, Mario Cuomo.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, I could have, if things had gone badly for me, I very well may have ended up a fruit broker, slinging fruit, selling trucks full of oranges across the country like my dad does. But That thank God I managed to not have to do that.
If you take over your father's business, and it doesn't matter what the business is, you will destroy it. You will try to outdo him and take shortcuts because that's your nature, because you're going into your father's business.
It depends on the person. It depends a lot on the person.
99%, it doesn't end well.
My great grandfather started an insurance company in Brooklyn. It is currently run by his grandson. It'll someday be run by his son, probably, but but those were also, it's a small company. It wasn't like anything powerful. These were humble people who just wanted to do a job. So maybe it's okay when you're talking about a store.
Right. I want to play a clip for you very quickly.
Yeah.
Sheriff Chitwood then focusing attention to this website called the Officers Down Memorial Page, citing more than 300 officers dying from COVID-19 so far this year. Chitwood says COVID-19 is now the #1 leading cause of officer deaths in the line of duty.
Okay, so we love to say that the Republicans are for law and order. They've turned their back on the cops, the Capitol cops, and now we're discovering that COVID is the #1 killer of cops in America.
Well, let's be fair. Republicans love order. They're not a big fan of law. It's pretty much just the order part they're interested in.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, the cops, you got to feel bad in the sense of like that they really did take advantage of this anti-police sentiment and made it seem as though, but all they were really doing is going along with their lifestyle brand of hating anything that liberals love, and vice versa. That's all it really ever was with cops. I've never heard, Republicans love talking about how they love the cops, but it's like a no true Scotsman fallacy. He's not a cop anymore when he tries to stop you. I think is that he's only a cop when he's doing the things you want him to do. And that the excuse to themselves is, well, cops shouldn't be trying to stop the insurrection. Cops, so I think that's sort of, but also, like, let's face it, they could not care less how many police officers are dying from COVID because everyone's dying of COVID. They don't care, because if they have to, the worst thing they could do is after all this time suddenly switch back and be like, all right, we were wrong. We were wrong is a lot worse than everyone dying.
What is going through? What I try to understand DeSantis and Abbott.
Oh, you know exactly what it is. There's nothing difficult to understand here. They want to keep their jobs, and they do not have the wherewithal to navigate the nuances of their job. So they just say what they think people want them to say. And it's not like they're wrong about this. DeSantis could not win another election if he followed all the rules and helped everyone, because I think a lot of people are saying it's like, well, on one hand, people will die, but on the other, if we did a good job and a lot of people didn't die, they would assume I didn't have to take all those measures. So I might as well not take them. The one thing DeSantis is not thinking about is the idea of lives. He does not care at all if people die, but he does care if he gets reelected. And he does believe that there is a light at the end of this rainbow, which is sort of the idea that when this is over, no matter how many people died, they'll forget.
Yeah.
They will forget everything he did wrong once this is done.
So before you go, Maria Bartiromo used to be on CNBC. I think she called herself the Money Honey. Now she has a show on Fox News, and she's all in on Donald Trump. The infrastructure bill, the first one, is going to spend about, I think they've earmarked about $50 billion to clean our tap water. Flint, Michigan, still does not have clean drinking water. 22 million people in America get their drinking water from systems with lead pipes, and twice as many, that's 45 million Americans, are getting their tap water that violate safe water standards. So 45 million Americans have lead in their water, which is good for Republicans. It might explain why so many people voted for Donald Trump.
Well, look, there's a very simple way to fix our water.
They're not okay. The Republicans aren't okay with fluoride in the water, but lead in the water, that's how you keep the base.
Well, if you want to fix the lead in the water, there's a very simple way of doing it. You have to tell people that someone who wasn't born in America or isn't white is the reason it happened, and then they'll fix it. Yeah. It's not a sexy issue. They don't care about anything that their constituents aren't losing their minds about. They are weather vanes now for the extreme right wing, which has become an internet conspiracy society. Right. So no one's going to care until the people who vote for them care, and they're not gonna.
This is a journalist, Fox News journalist, Maria Bartiromo. Let me play this clip, and then we'll wrap it up.
Things. And all of those other things that you've referenced aren't, again, exclusively democratic principles. There are some other things some of those things that contribute to the overall infrastructure of our country. And this is all hard infrastructure, Maria. You might argue with some of it. I don't like the electric vehicle charging stations, for example. If I was king, I wouldn't support that. But fortunately, our founders gave us something other than a king.
Well, you're not a king. None of the Republicans are king, but it certainly seems like the Democrats act like kings. In addition to all of that money beginning a Green New Deal, it also dictates rules in areas that have traditionally been managed by local authorities, like drinking water, even as it muscles in on private sector enterprises like broadband. So once again, we see the Democrats taking power away from the governors and putting it on the federal level. Is that fair?
This is someone on autopilot who really, I don't think she would remember she even said that, because it was such generic autopilot for a right-wing pundit to say. I mean, look what she's saying here. Let's not fix the roads because some people might consider it environmentalism. This is about their lifestyle brand crap, that they just think people on this side are against a certain number of things. And they include science, education, and the environment, and anything that sounds like it's for those things we have to be against. That's all. That is the extent of how hard she's thinking about this. And also, it's like they are not trying to share information anymore. Right-wing media is exclusively about massaging people's emotions. That's all it is. And she sees this as a way of getting people upset because that's her job. She is a clickbait maker. And we're talking about infrastructure.
We're talking about, can you hear me?
Yes.
We're talking about privatizing water like they tried in Colombia.
How'd that go?
Oh, no, Bolivia. They tried to, Bechtel tried to privatize the water in Bolivia.
If it was up to these people, fire departments wouldn't exist where the invisible hand of the market didn't find them profitable.
Yeah.
They don't want anything. They just want fiefdoms where rich people are in charge. They could not care less about what happens.
Yes. Dave Cyrus, thank you for accommodating us today. It's been this is an abbreviated version of our
I'm sorry I wasn't funny, or I have a cold. But yes.
You're always funny.
Yes, well. But no, all I can say about like privatizing water, it's this libertarian thing of just trying to take advantage of a guy at home who knows absolutely nothing. And they are slaves to the guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, and terrified that guy is going to feel insecure for just a second about what they tell him.
Right. Don't feel bad about being stupid. Vote for us. We're just as dumb as you are. Dave Cyrus, congratulations on your Emmy nomination. Hey, did you see Todd Levin's piece in the New York Times?
No.
Todd Levin.
I'm excited.
Piece in the New York Times. Very interesting.
Oh, I'm excited for that then. Yeah.
It's in the magazine section yesterday.
I'll check it out.
Bill Sheft had a Shouts and Murmurs in the New Yorker.
Todd is a genius.
Yes, he is. Thank you, Dave Cyrus. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Dave.
Dave Cyrus.